We're joined by more than 100 businesses and civic organizations who are as concerned as I am about maintaining our economic progress and our momentum. As you know, over the last several months, we've worked with a great coalition of Colorado oil and gas companies, Noble, Anadarko, WPX, to name a few, Colorado Concern, the Farm Union, some of the state's largest home builders, and others, to try and find a legislative solution to address the concerns of communities about the level of local control regarding oil and gas development. Not everyone agreed with this approach, and the compromises we came to were pretty difficult. But we all agreed that putting a 2,000-foot setback in the state constitution or attempting to resolve these issues in the November ballot is a bad idea for Colorado. Ironically, the 2,000-foot setback ballot initiative is not by any measure about local control. Instead, it imposes an arbitrary limit throughout the entire state and provides no room to adjust based on local conditions and realities within specific communities. With November's election fast approaching, we all agree we now must turn our full attention to defeating these ballot measures, and I know that the industry, the business community, the vast majority of elected officials, both Republican and Democrat across the entire state of Colorado, are united in opposition because they know that these measures risk literally thousands and thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of investment, and hundreds of millions of dollars in state and local tax revenues. Colorado is already a leader nationally and internationally in protecting the environment and promoting responsible energy development. And again, while perhaps not everyone in the room may have agreed with us, we have the toughest frac fluid disclosure rule in the country. We have strong emission controls. We're the state's first. We are the nation's first state to require producers to plug leaks and make sure that we stop methane leaks, methane releases. We're proving that we can take full advantage of the innovations in oil and gas development, while at the same time maintaining the highest ethical, safety, and environmental standards. Coloradans for Responsible Energy Development, Protect Colorado, and Coloradans for Responsible Reform are all organized to defeat these measures, and I am proud to stand with them before you all today. Questions?
Yes, questions.
Questions. I'm sure there are questions.
This says that you're going to do whatever it takes to defeat initiatives.
Well, as a figure of speech.
What exactly does that mean? What are you willing to do?
Well, I think we're going to try and make sure we get the information out. That's the most important thing. Most people, when we sit down and have a conversation, not everyone, but you look at what the consequences, if you imposed a 2,000-foot setback on the state of Colorado, what that would do, not just to the oil and gas industry, we're talking about almost every industry in the state would suffer negative consequences. And I think when you explain that to people and say, wait a second, it doesn't even get you local control. There's probably a different way to find a compromise towards local control. Most people say, well, that makes much more sense than putting something in the Constitution that is almost impossible to take out and would have such really, I think, potentially disastrous consequences.
Governor, what about Initiative 89, the Bill of Rights, the Environmental Bill of Rights?
Well, I think that, again, the ability of communities to be able to deliver that level of sophistication, right? And one of the challenges we've had right from the beginning is, as we began talking about, I mean, we are at a place where we have competing, not rights, but most of us would say someone's lived somewhere for 30 years, and across the street there is suddenly that meadow is going to have an oil rig in it. People would say, well, gosh, that's in my neighborhood. And many people would say that's not fair. Same time, if you said, for the last 30 years someone's owned those mineral rights, and that the community is going to come and say, well, no longer can you drill take advantage of those mineral rights, we're going to take that away from you. Most people would say that that's not appropriate for government to be able to do as well. I think the challenge here is to find the compromise so that we can still allow people's private property to be accessed and them to retrieve the minerals, but at the same time protect the quality of communities and make sure that they are environmentally protected.
Governor, what do you do to sort of deflate the emotionally charged aspect of this debate? Because that's what a lot of this is about. I mean, 5 communities have already, taken steps. Granted, Loveland didn't, but it was close. And a lot of that is tied around the emotional aspect of this. So what can be done to sort of deflate that?
Well, it's emotional on both sides, I think. And at least in my experience, the best way, it's difficult when the emotions get to such a pitch, but the best way is to listen harder, right? And make sure people feel heard and take that time to hear what they're getting at and make sure that you're trying to find ways to address what their needs are as best you can. And still, again, we've got a situation where we've got to balance 2 competing needs.
Governor, won't we see things like this every year, though, until
every 2 years?
Yeah, but until lawmakers get together and actually hammer out something?
I think that there is a compromise there that will, again, allow a measure of local control in some way, but at the same time protect the private property rights. But that's probably going to take a long process. Again, there's a lot of emotion here, and trying to do it rapidly proved to be clearly difficult, more difficult than we could get done. And it's going to take more time and more people's commitment to getting to that resolution.
Governor, could you speak to what the sticking point was that led to the failure for the compromise bill this time around?
I think that you asked 10 different people, you're going to hear 10 different reasons. A number of people felt the compromise wasn't fair, and that especially many of the smaller operators in the oil and gas industry felt that they would be disadvantaged and that their company would be at risk. A number of the representatives of the agricultural industry and some of the home builders in the same way felt that they weren't sufficiently protected. Our commitment from the beginning was to try and get a bipartisan consensus, with people from both sides to get bipartisan legislation. I guess I'd say bipartisan legislation with broad community support. And we couldn't quite get there. We just didn't have enough time to work through all of those, all the different points of view that exist.
Governor, why the big kickoff now? Why not wait until the signatures get turned in?
Well, I think that at a certain point, once we realized we really weren't going to be able to get to a bipartisan solution with enough community support, if you believe that the risk to the state's economy is significant, there's no real value in waiting. Right? The sooner that we step forward and say, there's got to be a better way to resolve this than putting something like a 2,000-foot setback in the state constitution.
Last question.
Governor, off topic, do you have the comment on the closeness of the polls in the upcoming governor's race?
I do think that, and I hope this is within the Senate races, within the state races, that this initiative is as much nonpartisan as possible. Again, I think the potential damage to the state's economy is sufficiently significant that everyone should be concerned about it.
Just really quick, have you talked to Congressman Polis at all since this all fell through?
I talked to him. It depends on when you define the falling through.
It's
not exactly like ice that you just drop through it. It was more of a gradual recognition. But I talked to Congressman Polis a number of times, and we tried to work at it in a number of different ways and find different avenues, different compromises, and we just couldn't get far enough to bring both sides together.
There's a lot of frustration in this
Thank you. I'm sorry, they're going to a meeting.
Do you share in that frustration?
I think the point now is not to point fingers. I think that we want to make sure we get the information out there and really focus on making sure that this doesn't get passed and that we are, as a community, that the vast majority of the state gets united against this. Thank you.
So thank you.